Hello and welcome to today's ResNexus webinar. We appreciate you taking the time to learn more about this top performing camping OTA, it's Hipcamp, and we're excited to share this presentation with you. Today we'll be hearing from Kristen Vasson, Head of Partnerships at Hipcamp, as well as their campground specialist, Ali Devereaux. I'll pass the time over to them to speak, and then we will hear a success story from a ResNexus client and Hipcamp host. And then at the end, I'll go ahead and demonstrate for you how to get started on Hipcamp with ResNexus, and then we'll have time set aside for a Q&A. Again, thank you for your time. I'll go ahead and let Kristen and Ali take it from here.
All right, Gavin, thank you so much. It's so great to be here today. Thank you all for making the time to join us and our special guest host as we bring you along on our journey to becoming the #1 camping OTA. We're so thrilled to be kicking off our second peak season with ResNexus and really proud to be a preferred partner of ResNexus's 2 years running. And more than anything, we're just so excited to share our story with you and hopefully hopefully welcome some new campgrounds to our community after today's webinar. So before we begin, I'll take a moment to introduce myself and my co-host, Ali. As I mentioned, my name is Kristen Vasson, and I'm our head of partnerships here at Hipcamp. I'm based out of Denver, Colorado, and I've been on the team for just over 2.5 years. And pictured here is my favorite camping companion, Josie Lambchop. Despite weighing only 15 pounds, she somehow manages to kick me out of my sleeping bag whenever we camp. She is named after the song for any Steely Dan fans out there. And one of my favorite places to camp is right here in Colorado, up in a place called Twin Lakes, which is located just outside the town of Leadville, Colorado, where they do the Leadville 100 Ultra Marathon. So I'll kick it over to you, Ali.
Thanks, Kristen. My name's Ali, and I've worked at Hipcamp for just over 3 years now. I'm a campground specialist based in Calais, Maine, and I'm also a dog parent to Winston. Much like Josie Lambchop, Winston loves camping, and our favorite place to camp and hike is Acadia National Park.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. So for today's agenda, we're going to share our story and provide some transparency around how we got here. You'll learn about what truly sets us apart and how easy we make it for campgrounds to list with Hipcamp. And from there, we've invited a special guest, our friends from Arapaho Valley Ranch, to share their story and open it up to any Q&A you might have from there. So let's get started. So for anyone new to Hipcamp, we were founded in 2013 and grew to become the largest marketplace in the world for finding a campsite. We are global with over 5 million acres of bookable land from the US to Canada, the UK, and Australia. And in 2022, we were approached by ResNexus about a partnership. What we realized was happening is that dozens of campgrounds were asking for this integration for 2 reasons. One, they wanted more business. Direct bookings alone are not necessarily going to grow your campground. And Hipcamp, being one of the more recognized platforms out there for finding a campsite, really solves for that by bringing more campers to your land. The second reason is that they needed an easier way to do things. For many of these ResNexus hosts, they were managing direct bookings on their website with ResNexus, and they were also managing reservations through Hipcamp. So they were essentially having to manage communication with guests and their business through 2 totally separate platforms, which was just creating a lot of work for them. So an integration would bring the best of our worlds together while helping these businesses operate twice as efficiently. And I owe credit here to the team at ResNexus for being really ahead of the curve and listening to your customers, because what happened next is pretty incredible. So we went live with ResNexus in early 2023. And at the time, we were seeing a steady flow of hosts on board as we prepared for peak season. Bookings immediately started to pick up and roll in by peak. And we had over 150 hosts receiving bookings by, peak 2023. So in just our first year of working with ResNexus, the hosts on their platform who started listing with us earned an average of over $10,000, with some earning as much as $100,000. We blew ahead of the competition, outpacing our competitors by nearly 3 times the number of bookings. And based on my finance team's projections, this is going to be our best year ever. We should be on track to drive 5 times the number of bookings for campgrounds this year compared to last year. But you're probably wondering, how did we do it, right? How did we grow to become this #1 camping OTA? So let me explain. So I'll start out by sharing a story, and it's that I was still pretty new to camping during COVID. I actually learned about Hipcamp around a campfire while camping with some friends who were really excited that suddenly there was this cool app and website out there that made finding a campsite really simple, which is what everyone was trying to do during COVID, get outside and do so with peace of mind. So for any campgrounds listening in today, thinking about how to connect with a younger generation of campers, I'd say Hipcamp is definitely your answer. 3 out of every 4 hip campers is under the age of 55. So we have the largest community of millennials and Gen Z campers, and everything we do, from how we designed our product to the stories that we get to tell on social media, makes it really easy for us to connect with campers, better than any other camping OTA out there. In fact, we are #1 on Instagram thanks to our amazing marketing team and our relationships with partners like REI and some of the top social media influencers in the camping industry. Definitely look us up, give us a follow, and check out our awesome content. As far as product goes, I thought I'd share a story here. I've worked in the tech industry for around 15 years, and someone said something to me a long time ago that I'll never forget. And it's that your customer is always comparing their experience with your product to the last most amazing digital experience they just had. So to give you an example of what that means, if you're used to ordering anything you'd like in just a few clicks with Amazon, or maybe doing your banking online, finding a campsite should be no different, right? People want and expect a simple solution when it comes to finding a campsite. So Hipcamp built an app and a website that do exactly that. And if you jump into the product, I think you'll see exactly what I mean. With features that let you find the darkest skies for stargazing or plan an epic road trip near our most iconic national parks, we've really created this home for campers that makes finding the perfect campsite feel really simple. One last story I'll share here is that ahead of the total solar eclipse we just had on April 8th, we gave folks the ability to search for campsites along the path of totality. We had this really cool map layer, which is what you're seeing here, overlaid in our product. And this feature was such a hit that we grew bookings by over 1,000% year over year. 71% of people who found campgrounds through Hipcamp for the eclipse were first-time campers, which just goes back to this point I've been making around, how many new and young campers we're bringing into our community each year. And the last point I'll make here is that we are #1 in SEO. So when it comes to who dominates in search rankings on Google for the most commonly used industry keywords, we are ranked at the top. That means that when campers are doing general searches in Google to find a campsite, they're more than likely starting with Hipcamp to find your campground. So hopefully by now you are feeling so inspired and ready to get started. So I'm going to kick it off to Allie to walk us through what that process looks like.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to walk you through how Hipcamp works for you. Our partners at ResNexus have made it so easy to get connected. Typically, this can be completed in under 10 minutes. So to get connected, you're just going to want to go to the ResNexus settings page, search Direct Connect, click Add Channel and select Hipcamp, click Connect to sync up with Hipcamp, and then we will get a notification and we will start your listing. And we usually have that completed in under 2 days. So you'll be able to start taking bookings in a matter of days. Once you're ready to start taking bookings, we give you a dedicated account manager and myself or my colleague, Mary, and we'll really work with you one-on-one to help optimize your listing and make sure you're getting the eyes on your campground. Like I just said, it only takes a few minutes to get started. And if you'd like to contact me, you can do so at alexander@hipcamp.com. or text or call me at 347-618-4035. I'd love to help you get set up. And a few common questions that we get starting out. Common question that I get asked quite often is, how much does it cost to list on Hipcamp? And the short answer is, it doesn't cost anything to list with us. There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and no setup costs. Hipcamp only charges a small commission on bookings we send your way. And included in this commission are all email and social media marketing, SEO, credit card fees, and account support costs. Another question I get quite frequently is, how does Hipcamp handle payouts? Again, this is a fairly simple process. Once a booking has been made, Hipcamp collects the payment using our secure payment processor Stripe. And once the booking has been completed, Hipcamp pays you via direct deposit or PayPal every Tuesday for all bookings that have taken place in the previous week. Once you're set up and receiving bookings on Hipcamp, we have an excellent support team that is available to you 24/7. Anything to do with cancellations, booking modifications, or camper requests, or our support team is fully available to you. In fact, a lot of campgrounds have said to me that having the Hipcamp support team available to them is like having an extra employee on hand to help with day-to-day activities. Our support team really goes the extra mile to ensure that both you as a campground and your guests have the best possible experience on our platform. To sum everything up, the Hipcamp and ResNexus integration is the simplest way to help generate more bookings to your park. It's so easy to get started, and the support you'll receive through onboarding and beyond is the best in class. Whether you're a campground who has been in business for many years and are looking to attract a new audience, or you're a new park looking to easily market your campground from day one, there is no other camping OTA available today that is as powerful as Hipcamp. And now I will be joined by Ali Rankin, who is the guest service manager at Arapaho Valley Ranch in Colorado. They joined Hipcamp during their first season of operations and have since generated over 350 bookings through Hipcamp. Hello, other Ali, and welcome to the webinar. There we go.
Hello.
Hey, Ali, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. It's so nice to see you again. We're really excited to have you join us today. And just want to start out by asking, what makes Arapaho Valley Ranch such a great destination?
Yeah. So Arapaho Valley Ranch, we have a wide variety of accommodations. So we have campsites, we have RV sites, glamping tents, teepees, and cabins. So we have something for everybody, whether they're wanting to come for a large family reunion, a little weekend getaway. Our price ranges are all different. So we really do have something for everyone here. Our location is one of the most breathtaking places. We're located just at the foothills of the Indian Peaks Wilderness. We're about 30 miles from Rocky Mountain National Park, and we are located just off of Lake Granby. So we have a lot of great things around us that I think help our guests have a great time here.
That's so amazing. I really want to visit next October. Yes. At Glamping Show. I will visit, I promise. I think, what you have available at Arapaho Valley Ranch really speaks to kind of the variety on Hipcamp. I think that's why you've been so successful, because we have your RV campers, we have your tenters, we have people that are looking for more of a glamping experience. So I think that's really why you've seen so much success. But I am wondering, what inspired you to list with us in the first place? Why did Arapaho Valley Ranch list with Hipcamp?
So our owner, before he bought the property, he used Hipcamp with his family, and they really enjoyed it. They thought it was great and thought it would be a great fit for us, and it turned out to be. We were really looking for some new exposure. We had added a ton of glamping. We had 3 glamping tents originally, and now we have 19, and we were wanting to fill those spots, and Hipcamp really helped get us that exposure that we needed.
That's amazing. And while you were setting up, was it an easy process with Hipcamp and ResNexus?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was so easy. And Hipcamp was extremely helpful the entire way, and so was ResNexus. So yeah, it was great.
No, that's so good to hear. And then once after you got set up, has the support been just as good, like the whole way through? Have you felt supported?
We have, yeah. And I think something about Hipcamp and ResNexus both is they're both very personable. It happens so quick. I send an email, hey, we're having an issue with this. Instantly, I feel like I'm getting an email back, a solution to the problem, and we're on our way. So we really appreciate how helpful both Hipcamp and ResNexus are.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's like I said, it's been so great getting to know you over
Yeah,
this past year. I feel like, we're friends now.
I did.
We're
Kelly and Allie.
yeah, that's right. Um, I guess the big question, what kind of success have you seen on Hipcamp?
Yeah, so we have received, so in our first 5 months of using Hipcamp, we received 80% of our direct connect bookings. And that was a little over 200 bookings. And even now that is almost doubled in preparation for the summer. This upcoming summer. So it has been really, really great. We've had so much success, and we've had guests that have came and maybe they were camping and they didn't even know we had glamping, and they came back within the same summer and got to enjoy more things that we have to offer. So it's been awesome.
That's amazing. Speaking of that, the people that come in, the guests, the campers, what are they like? What's your typical hip camper like?
Yeah. So I've noticed that they all have great communication, and it's nice being able to chat with them through Hipcamp. Before they get here, we get their email, their phone number. So we're able to contact them. They're able to contact us. Um, and so they have great communication and are very, very respectful. They clean up after themselves. They definitely follow our rules. And I feel like they're really there to enjoy the outdoors. And
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's something we hear time and time again is, hip campers are respectful. They're very in tune with nature. They're there, just really great campers. So it's good. It's good to hear that you've had a similar experience. Um, Last question. If you were to give a piece of advice to another campground considering to list with Hipcamp and ResNexus Direct Connect, what would it be?
I would highly encourage them to do it. I think that Hipcamp and ResNexus have proven to be successful. You can look at the success that we've had and how much exposure that we've gotten from this and continue to get. It's not like you're only here or you're only helping us for 2 months and then you lose all the exposure. It's continual. You're always getting it, and you're getting returning guests, and it's just been amazing. So I would highly recommend anyone to list on Hipcamp and use ResNexus.
Perfect. That's so great to hear, Ali. I'm going to kick it back over to Gavin now, and we're going to do a Q&A session. I think Ali's going to stick around for a bit as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share for just a moment just to get us prepped for that Q&A. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right one. There we go. All right. Can you guys see that okay? All right. Awesome. So yeah, just to quickly demo how to get started with Hipcamp and your Direct Connect and your back office for ResNexus. For any of you who haven't done this yet, is you're going to want to go into your settings, and then you can go to Direct Connect, and you can add the channel, and you'll just scroll down until you find Hipcamp, and you'll add it on this screen here. And then to get in touch, if you haven't worked with Hipcamp before, you're going to want to use that button on the right. Otherwise, and then once that's done, you can go ahead and use the connect button over there to get set up and start getting those bookings sent over. If you did like this webinar and want to view any of our past ones, you can go to our website, resnexus.com. And we've got our webinars tab underneath education. And there you can view our library of all our past webinars. And you can also register for upcoming ones on that page. All right. My spiel is over. Now we're going to go ahead and get to the general Q&A. If you have questions about ResNexus or about Hipcamp or questions for Ali with Arapaho, we'll try and get those answered for you kind of as fast as we can and in the order that they appear. And I'll leave it on this slide from Hipcamp to make sure you guys can see that that offer to get on their wait list by May 22nd to try and get you launched as soon as possible. All right, let me go ahead and pause that share. All right, and then we'll just wait and see what kind of questions are coming in. Yeah, thanks so much. While we're waiting, just thanks so much for Hipcamp for coming on. Thanks so much, Ali, for coming on and telling us about your property. It's awesome to hear. So, yeah, it's been great. While we're waiting, is there any kind of special messaging you want to get out about Hipcamp? Are you excited for the summer? Excited to see all these new campers start coming in?
Yeah, we are super excited. I think, as I mentioned, the eclipse just brought so many new folks into our community. And we're also just seeing like this kind of big influx of retirees who are buying their RVs, kind of making their retirement dreams come true and thinking about like, how do we spend more time outside this summer? So we're also seeing a lot of folks from, that kind of group finding Hipcamp and wanting to stay at some of our RV friendly sites, which is exciting.
Yeah, that eclipse map that you showed, that you demonstrated, was really awesome. They're very, innovative, and I'm sad I wasn't able to get out to the Path of Totality, but my folks were, and they had a great time. So
Yeah, we had just a record turnout along that path. I feel like the whole country did, but we're gearing up for 2028 since we also have hip camps in Australia, and there's going to be a big one that passes right over Sydney in just a few years. So we'll be ready for anyone wanting to travel overseas for that.
that's fantastic. That's awesome. All right, looks like we got a few questions starting to come in. If they're for Hipcamp, want me to let you guys go ahead and field those? Want me to field them to you? What would you prefer? All right. Uh, Looks like I got one for Allie. Carmen asks, what is the cost for the resort, or does it turn to the customer?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the question, Carmen. The cost is 10% plus 2.5% for a total of 12.5%. And that is to the resort. Other than that, those are on bookings we send you away. So other than that, there's no fees to get set up, no contracts or any other fees beyond that.
All right, looks like we probably got another one for Hipcamp. How do you handle refunds if a guest cancels a Hipcamp reservation?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hipcamp handles all refunds. So any cancellations, anything flows through us. We have several different cancellation options that will most likely fit your campground. So yeah, all refunds flow through us.
Fantastic. All right, we've got a few more coming in. If we're integrated on Hipcamp, will we be able to access guest emails?
So we give you the ability to communicate with guests through ResNexus, but we don't pass the actual personal information of the camper over to the campground, but any sort of messaging, getting ready instructions, welcoming them to your campsite, all of that can be done through ResNexus and reaches the camper directly.
All right, great to know. Um, let's see, a question for Arapaho. Looks like it's for you, Allie. Did Arapaho's return guests book through Hipcamp again or through your direct website?
So we had both. We've had some that have booked through our website. They wanted to get onto our um, email list where we send out our promotions to. So we had some guests that booked through there, and then we had other guests who have just booked through Hipcamp again.
That's great. You're getting guests from both fronts, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Our questions are starting to slow down. We'll keep it open for another few minutes, see if we've got any other burning questions on people's minds. But yeah, in the meantime, uh, yeah, if you haven't yet gotten started with Hipcamp, just take note of, I think you can still see the screen I have up here, to get on that wait list and get your integration done by Memorial Day weekend. So I think that'd be great. Let's see, looks like we got a question for the ResNexus side of things. If an email address is unavailable, how can we utilize ResNexus to send automated emails to the guest? Um, so what you can do is, obviously when the guest shows up, if you want to, be able to send out your marketing emails to them and stuff, you can ask them for their email when they show up, when they arrive, and have them just give you permission to send them those kinds of materials. Um, and that's probably your number one way you can do that. I think you will be able to, though, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you do get to send your welcome and thank you emails. Those will still go through. Yeah. Allie's nodding, so I'm
Yeah, no, yeah. Any arrival instructions or anything that you have in ResNexus, you can just click that in your settings portion in Direct Connect, and those will flow through to your Hipcamp guests.
Right. But yeah,
And
if
I
you want to be able
believe
to market to them in a different way, you'll have to get that in some other way. Go ahead, Kristen.
I believe that stays good for 30 days following the completion of the reservation. So if there's any sort of additional comms you want to send them through ResNexus, you can do that. And I think just out of respect for folks' privacy, a lot of our campers don't want to necessarily be, spammed or over marketed to by the various campgrounds that they stay at throughout the summer, which is why we take our just guest privacy seriously, but still want to give campgrounds the ability to, message folks through the platform. And of course, if you do ask for their email when they come on site, that's totally fine as long as the guest opts in.
Absolutely right. All right, I believe we've come to the end of our questions for today. So I'd just like to thank everyone once more for coming on and putting on this webinar for us. Really appreciate you, Allie from Arapaho, and Allie from Hipcamp, and Kristen, and everyone who took the time out of your day to come and learn more about Hipcamp and ResNexus. So thank you, everyone, and hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all so much.